Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday Morning Blitz for NFL Week 17. It is I, Jackson Roberts. It is he, Cale Clinton, a slightly diminished Cale Clinton, as I understand it. If you are one of our StreamYard viewers, you may see Cale's very simple caption today, simply noted, flu game. Cale, you're not feeling your best, and that's why I love you, because you're here to deliver. So, I'm proud of you, but, just want the listeners to take it easy on you today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, big vid. Bug got me again. I'm a two-time survivor now. Does not feel good. I said to Jackson. I've gotten it twice, and both times it's ruined New Year's for me. I started 2021 on a. I was started 2021 on a. God, this brain fucking sucks. We're gonna fully have to edit that. That sucked. Uh, I'm brain dead right now. On a walk-in clinic line. That's what it was.
He's at a walk-in clinic, folks.
Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday Morning Blitz.
It is COVID Cale Clinton, and he has taken over the intro for the show this week. Cale, I know your brain's not working too great today, but we're going to talk some football. If that
Goddamn right we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, only 2 weeks left in the season. Lots going on this week. One seed's fully locked up, which I don't think anybody saw coming into this week. The Ravens had a chance, of course, to clinch the 1 seed with a win at home against Miami. They not only took care of business, but absolutely thumped them. Scoregami, shout out, 56-19, absolute bloodbath. But the 49ers clinched the 1 seed, and that was a surprise to some because not only did they need a win, which they were able to take care of somewhat easily against the Washington Commanders, but the Philadelphia Eagles needed to lose at home to the Arizona Cardinals, and by George, it happened. So maybe a weird place to start for the week because we've got a lot of achievements to talk about, but man, what's the level of panic in Philly right about now?
Oh, sky high. I want to preface it by saying I feel like this is a Cardinals outcome that we should have been seeing more often on Kyler's return. I felt like we got tastes of it. But just these big explosions of 225 plus yard games, 3+ touchdowns, kind of ball out performances, a little scooting here and there too. A little yakety sacks playing on a Kyler scramble. We needed a couple of those, but it is a testament to just how poorly this Eagles defense has looked of late. We knew secondary was a bit of a concern. It kind of reared its ugly head again this week. Murray just balling out with, again, not a lot to work with, guys. But 4 straight touchdown drives to close this game for the Arizona Cardinals is just pretty insane.
Yeah. 10 plays, 75 yard, 9 plays, 77 yard.
Yeah, I was going to say no short fields.
7 plays, 70 yard. All of them just cooking Matt Patricia's defense the full way through.
There were concerns when Patricia took over, and more, I'd almost say more so off meme and meme alone. Matt Patricia has coached some good defenses, or has been a part of some well-coached defenses, and has coached some poor defenses, namely Detroit. But it's just real bad, man. This is becoming not becoming a big problem. It is a big problem. It's staring the Eagles squarely in the face. The secondary is an issue. They gave up an 84.6 defensive passing DVOA, by far their worst mark of the season by 32 points. Worse since week 13. Like, by far, their worst mark of the season at arguably the worst time they could possibly have it.
Against the 27th ranked passing DVOA offense to begin with as well.
Yeah. No, it's the fact that this is their worst game. Like, you can have a bad game against San Francisco. That's their week 13 game. That's the 50-something percenter. To have this game against Arizona is a complete collapse.
Yeah.
I am curious to go look back at tape of, Bradbury in this game. Eagles should be thankful it's not a worse outcome for Devonta Smith than originally thought.
Insult to injury, injury to insult, whatever you want to call that one.
I just don't really know where Philadelphia goes from here at the moment. It just feels like it feels a little doomed. I don't want to just speak in generalities on this. It just doesn't feel like a good and obviously bad situation to be in right now. You don't want to be where Philadelphia is right now.
I think
the postseason.
I think this game's slipping away from him. Ironically enough, I'm gonna hate to bring up an antiquated stat like passer rating, but since I've got the game logs in front of me, this was Jalen Hurts' first game with 100-plus passer ratings since the 28-23 win over Dallas back in early November. So I just don't think they've been right for a while on either side of the ball. And it's just kind of getting to be too late in the season to recover it, especially when you're suffering like key injuries on both sides of the ball. Other teams are suffering key injuries too. So it was kind of a glum week in that sense. But I think the number one team that I thought, if I saw an interesting thought exercise going around on X yesterday, it was like, if you had to pick 4 teams and put your life savings on one of these 4 teams to win the Super Bowl, and nobody else can win it, otherwise you lose your life savings, who would you include in that 4? I didn't even think about including the Eagles in that top 4. I don't think they can do it this year. And maybe that's partially just because I don't think Jalen's fully been himself the last month and a half. That's partial. AJ Brown hasn't had a touchdown either in 5 weeks now. So it's really just not the same offense that we become accustomed to seeing when they were, running their way to 10-1. If they don't, barely squeak by that Giants team last week, then they would have lost 5 in a row by now. It's just been a month and a half of bad football at this point.
The one stat I think that really explains it. Eagles are 1-4 since Big Dom got kicked off the sidelines.
I don't hate that explanation.
Just need to bring back the rowdy Italian.
There's something going on. There's something going on with, rowdy Italians, because the Giants also haven't won since Tommy DeVito and his agent snubbed the pizza parlor. I know Tommy went back on his own and tried to fix it, but misdeeds by lovable Italian characters have been.
I have fully missed whatever that story is.
you were out on the Tommy DeVito agent saga? This guy. It was the most classic thing you've ever heard. They booked a gig at just a random Jersey pizza shop, and they had a booking fee, and I think the original booking fee was $10,000. Already a lot. And then after Tommy won his 3rd game in a row, apparently his agent went to the pizza parlor and was just like, "Hey, price just went up. It's $20,000 now," and they just fully canceled it. And then I guess what ended up happening was Tommy fired his agent in terms of making those bookings for him. Now he just handles the contract stuff and went back to the pizza parlor for free. So good on Tommy for making it right. But yeah, this is catching Cale up on pop culture. It's a new segment.
I know all about Steve Stellario.
I don't think Steve's his first name, is it? Sean Stellato. That's what it is.
Sean Stellato. Dude, I was looking at his 3-time Marist all academic years and the one touchdown record he held at Marist. So I'm very familiar with his agent. I was unfamiliar with the local pizza story, and I'm frankly better for it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you don't wrong Jersey pizza parlors. That's like the number one rule of existing in Jersey is you don't go after the pizza crown. So good on Tommy for at least fixing some of the karma. But hey, the Giants haven't won since, and we'll get into some of the specifics of how they lost their most recent game because it was maybe the most painful loss yet. But before we do that, we got to continue talking about playoff implications of this week. The 49ers win the game, get the 1 seed, and then possibly my favorite moment of the week that we won't fully touch on is the 49ers huddling in front of the 3-inch by 3-inch plasma TV in the FedEx Field locker room afterwards. Many people pointed out the Michael Scott comparisons there. It was just the most perfect FedEx Field thing you've ever seen. But now that the 49ers have clinched the 1 seed, we've still got the kind of the residue of last week's loss still hanging over them. They get to rest up. Are they still the odds-on, no doubt favorite to win the NFC in your mind?
Pretty much, yeah. It's just a matter of a fully talented roster. Dallas is interesting to me, but I just still can't get that full dismantling out of my head. And there's too many. Like we talked on the small optics of like the Tony Pollard non-touchdown. We've touched on Mike McCarthy's just inability to properly call an offense, but like Dallas is still a legit football team with a good defense, with coached by a good coordinator in Dan Quinn, and the offense is headed up by a good quarterback in Dak Prescott, who's been playing at MVP conversation levels. There's a lot of good for Dallas to hang their hat on. Yeah, it's just San Francisco to me. The Detroit's just scrappy in my mind, but God, we'll talk about that game. I genuinely think they really needed that to not have a shot at winning the NFC, but I think this team more than most needs all the help they can get. Detroit is one of those underrated teams that kind of on like everyone talks about Dallas's home road splits, but not many people talk about Detroit's. Detroit's home road splits. I can't even speak. Detroit's home road splits are equally pretty gaudy. While I pull those up though, just to get it, where are you kind of at in the NFC? Just from a landscape perspective, because the Rams dropped a pretty or almost dropped. Sorry, I just keep processing that Tyrod rush as an okay they won moment. But Rams almost dropped a pretty gruesome game against the Niners, the Giants. Geez, we've talked about the Eagles, we've talked about the Cowboys. Or I've talked about the Cowboys at least. And it doesn't seem like another real wild card team that could pose a legitimate threat.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conundrum to me. I think that as much as I want to call the Niners the favorites, I think that Dallas is still kind of right there from a talent perspective. And I'm less so factoring in that week 6, week 7 game, whatever it was. Obviously, they don't want to go back to San Francisco, and the same thing could 100% happen. But I think that even more so, it's the last 25 years that have conditioned me to believe that the Cowboys are going to somehow fall apart in the playoffs. So if you can erase all that from your memory, if you can erase not only earlier this year, but 25 years of misery, then I absolutely think the Cowboys are right there. But I can't do that, and therefore I'm not going to be able to stomach picking them to win the NFC. It's just not. It's become too much buildup over the years that it's a believe it when I see it situation. And then I just mentioned my disgust with the Eagles. I really just think they've kind of thrown their season away at this point. That just leaves me with Detroit, who I I think are the ultimate wild card in this whole thing. I think ultimately I don't believe them to make the Super Bowl, but I think they could take out one of those top teams on the way. And if they just happen to run into the Niners on the right day, who knows? But at the same time, I feel like from a pure talent perspective, they're probably the team that lines up the worst with the Niners out of all the teams we're talking about. So if I'm evaluating all the options, I think I feel better about San Francisco actually coming out of the NFC than I do about Baltimore coming out of the AFC, even though Baltimore's looked like the better team recently. So that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah. Also, I was fully wrong on the Detroit split stats. I was thinking more that they've just had they're more egregious losses on the road. Smoked by Baltimore. That loss to
Doesn't look as bad anymore. At the time, it was like, oh, Detroit's not real. They got waxed by Baltimore. Well, Baltimore's waxed everyone they've played ever since.
I know it's still just an ugly loss to have on the road. A loss to the Bears, a pretty handily loss to the Bears, 13-28, and the loss to the Cowboys.
Yeah, which we can adjudicate later, because obviously that was the hot button moment of the week, and we've both got plenty to say about it. But regardless, I think we kind of know where we stand in the NFC. AFC gets interesting. I want to ask you that like 4-team question, because I think anyone would put the Niners and Ravens in there right now unless they're really feeling contrarian. And I know that was your preseason Super Bowl prediction, so I don't know why you'd move off that now. But if I'm going to offer you Cowboys, Eagles, Lions, sure, why not? And then I'll give you the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Browns. Pick 2 of those 6 teams that you think can win the Super Bowl.
It's such an uphill battle to say Bills. And there's a part of me that's really starting to believe it. This Bills team is at this point pretty well seasoned in playoff defeat, which I think in a weird way helps them. Mindset and preparation is going to be a very important thing for these teams heading into the postseason. And of the 3 you've said in the AFC, I don't think KC is the juice. We'll see how they finish out. They kind of de facto clinched that division, but
I left them out. I thought about including them. Defending champs, people get mad about that one, but I don't see it. I don't think you do either, so leaving them out.
Yeah. Jacksonville as well. Jacksonville kind of looks beat up without Trevor Lawrence, like when healthy, will provide a boost to that team, or just when back will provide a boost to that team. He will not be healthy in this postseason, but that defense is not like playoff ready at the moment. But of the 3 that you've mentioned, speaking of playoff ready, Browns have no experience there. They won 1 game with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, which shows how long ago that win was. And the Dolphins' lone trip under McDaniel was, a Skylar Thompson start, I think. It's pretty limited experience, and Buffalo has experienced some pretty low lows when it comes to playoff runs recently. But I think that kind of weathers them to actually be able to make a run. Plus, this is not a team that does well with expectations. This is a team that does well as an underdog. And Buffalo is pretty well equipped to do that. As a wild card seed, I wouldn't be surprised in that regard if on vibe alone.
Amazing. That's what's amazing about Buffalo right now is if they win this game in Miami, they are no longer a wild card team. But if they lose it and Jacksonville, Houston, and Pittsburgh all win, they're out of the playoffs. They haven't actually clinched anything yet. So I
Yeah.
think they're going to make it. I think they're going to beat Miami, but it just goes to show that living life on a razor's edge is kind of the norm at this point for Bills fans.
Yeah, they could use the help, obviously, of being a higher seed, but what I'm more saying is the lack of expectation is what's going to give these guys a little bit of of the moral or the morale boost they need. NFC side, like I love the Lions for the chutzpah, but it's got to be Dallas just by default. Again, blinds, hide the logo. I'm picking Dallas over the rest of these teams. It's just the fact when you bring in they haven't been to the playoffs since Aikman was quarterback, or they haven't been to the conference championship since Aikman was quarterback. That's when you get a little scared. But it's God, they're a good team when they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and you hide the logo for Detroit too, and then for Philly, it's like, well, I know you made it there last year, but there's never been more clear that they're not the same team. So it's kind of pick your poison on like which cursed vibes do you want to go with. So I think Dallas is where I would cautiously side too. Or you could pick 3 AFC teams and really get weird with it because you one of these 4 teams or you lose your life savings.
I'd throw the hot Flacco team in there for sure. Again, just off vibes. Just like that. If I was rocking with a vibes team, Detroit's getting a little scary to me. God, they deserve that win. But I really just want a Joe Flacco team leading this. I want a Joe Flacco team in a deep playoff run again. Bring me back to the aughts. Bring me back to like 2011. Flo Rida was still making music. Good old days.
Those are good days. Now, we kind of talked about all of them. I mean, the Chiefs get their mojo back. I guess basically they just continued to field goal the Jake Browning Bengals to death and finally clinched their AFC title. So they're locked into the 3 seed. Browns are locked into the AFC's 5 seed. Over on the NFC side, we've got the Niners locked into the 1 seed, and you've got the Rams pretty much locked into the 6 seed. Some real madness would have to unfold for them to move up. So there's a lot of teams that kind of have nothing to play for. Now, who's still playing for something? That's what we can break down next. Most obvious one, let's get it right out of the way. Houston, Indy, Saturday, night game, prime time. Whoever wins that game is in. Whoever loses that game is pretty much guaranteed to be out. There's some weird tiebreaker scenarios that can maybe see both of them get in, but I mean, I don't even see them right now. I think it's literally a winner in, loser out scenario now that I'm looking at it. I've got shout out FO former colleague Brian Knowles. I've got his entire playoff scenarios table open in front of me, and I have just confirmed there is no scenario where Indy and Houston both get in. So
his little graphics package goes crazy.
It does.
8-bit. Oh, what an aesthetic.
It's really good. I mean, it just looks like Excel, but it hits.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
There's that one, but he has if you go to his page, he has a much more detailed of every playoff scenario done with helmets that he's done for years now. It is one of my favorite tools to look at to just get every. I was looking at the Steelers one earlier last night, and it was super interesting just looking at like every circumstance that the Steelers need to specifically make the 7 seed. It just like all the dominoes that need to fall for that to happen. He does great work.
Yeah, it is quite good. So right off the bat, we've got those AFC South teams still with stuff to play for. And then the Jags, of course, still control the AFC South. But, they take care of business against Tennessee. They win the division. If they lose, they can still get in as the 7 seed if Denver and Pittsburgh also lose. But that's not something they want to depend on. So that's how the AFC South shakes down. And then, of course, you have your AFC East, the Bills and Dolphins playing for the title. The Dolphins are the 2 seed if they win, the 6 seed if they lose. Bills are probably the 6 and 7 if they lose, but there is a scenario where they get out. So there's your AFC. Let's just talk about Bills Dolphins, since that's obviously the game of the week. I mean, how much has your confidence shifted in the last couple of weeks against Miami? And how much, would you call it 70-30 Bills momentum right now, or no, because it's still in Miami?
It's not even just the momentum. It's the fact that losing Bradley Chubb's a big deal.
It is.
That's a massive, massive loss for this Dolphins team. I want to Waddle's a bigger deal. Mostert's a big deal. This is a hobbled Dolphins team right now. I don't want to just say this is a complete collapse a la the 2022 season where they just didn't have Tua. I think Tua is a different losing a quarterback is a different beast than losing a wide receiver 2, an RB1, and a leading edge rusher. But this is more just death by 1,000 cuts at this point. This is a real issue. This is impacting long-term playoff potential. This is this takes away from any real chance at a run. It's disheartening. You want to be able to see this team go full speed. No pun intended to the McDaniel offense. You want to see this team attack all out, and it's frustrating that we just keep seeing this happen. It's what Miami pun do you want to make? The tan looks great, but it's really damaging the skin. There's some, drinks are good, but it kills your liver. There's some crazy, Miami Vice themed pun you can make with all this, but it still stands. This is a team that cannot stay healthy at this point, and it's really concerning.
And there's a lot of ways you can butter knife, kind of Miami's season too, and turn it from, on the whole, how impressive it is. But I mean, obviously you have the one massive game that still kind of confounds a lot of their stats. And I just found it interesting that it's now 6 straight games where Tua hasn't thrown for 300 plus yards. That was their whole thing early in the season, was they had the 460 something pass yards game or whatever in the first week against LA. And then they had the game against Denver where everybody went bonkers and everybody had, Tua had 300 yards, but they also had 350 on the ground. And since mid-November, the offense has just kind of not been the same. I honestly go back to that Raiders game, a game, ironically, which Tua was his last 300-yard passing game. But they win that one 20-13. They look real shaky. They get, a couple semi-bounce backs. Washington was the only game this entire second half where they've still looked like a dominant offensive team. Other than that, you've got, 2 games the Jets just completely handed them with Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian playing quarterback. You've got the Dallas game that was a nice win, but they barely squeaked it out last week. And then that weird-ass Monday night Tennessee loss that I just thought game was over. 4 minutes left, I turned it off, and all of a sudden, it was the first time that's actually happened to me in a long time where I turned the game off and the other team won. And then you have this one where they just get completely outclassed. So this is a long-winded way of saying, I think I'm out on Miami. I think, unless they get fully healthy, all guns blazing, Waddle, Mostert, Achane back to the Achane he was early in the season, which he hasn't looked like lately, then I don't trust, somewhat hobbled Tyreek still, and Tua, who hasn't looked confident in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I don't trust that to make a deep playoff run at all.
No, I don't think you can. This is not the same team that we thought it was a few even a month ago at this point. It's kind of crazy. The fact that they were able to squeak out a win against Dallas last week is still surprising to me. This is still a team that could win games, and Mike McDaniel's still a very good coach, but you wish it had the same juice.
For sure. I mean, there's just little moments like when Tyreek drops the ball in the end zone with nobody around him. Like that wasn't happening to them a couple months ago. They've just lost some of their swagger, and I don't know. It's like the Eagles. I don't know how they're going to get that back in time for a deep playoff run against, all the other best teams going around that are playing their best ball right now. So we'll monitor them. And on the NFC side, if we're talking about what's still to play for, it's a lot more cut and dry. To be honest with you, it's pretty much just the NFC South that still needs to get decided, which, we've been all over all season. Very excited about
American ball right there, brother.
Good ball. Basically, the Bucks just have to beat the Panthers, and they got it. So not super exciting, but hey, maybe there's a world where Bryce plays his best game, and if they lose and the Saints win, they obviously can sneak in Tampa or New Orleans, and then if they both lose, there is still a world where we get Arthur Smith in the playoffs. So I think we all just assume that Tampa's beating Carolina this week, but never know after the way they played for the first 3 quarters this week. The more interesting scenario, of course, is the 7 seed, where the Packers control their own destiny. Their game against the Bears, who have looked very plucky lately. They've got to handle the Bears. And then if they do not, the Seahawks with a win and a loss from those Packers can clinch the 7 seed. So that's pretty much all there is. But are any of those teams still noteworthy in your mind heading into the playoffs if they do make it?
Packers are weird. Packers are weird and frisky. I kind of like them.
No defense should be mentioned.
No defense.
If you're not playing Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall, I don't feel great about the Packers defense going up against anybody in the NFC, unfortunately, because I do enjoy watching them play, watching them control the football on offense.
Yeah, it's LaFleur's putting on a masterclass offensively. I can't believe there was one graphic I saw. I think Bleacher Report had it, where Jordan Love's first year in the league has already surpassed the best statistical Bears season ever.
Oh my God.
By a quarterback. Like he's already surpassed the single season passing yard record and the single season touchdown record for a Bears quarterback. Passing touchdown. I don't know if rushing touchdowns alter those numbers, but God, he's hooping.
Can the Bears, just get the Packers out of the playoffs? It's exactly what the Lions did last year, right? It's like, we can't make it, but we can dump a fat one all over your hopes right now. And that would almost be enough, I think, if I were a Bears fan. That would make my season. And they clinched the number 1 pick yesterday. So optimism is high. I still think, that Fields, we actually talked about it before the show started, so it bears repeating. Justin Fields, despite looking really good lately, is still one of only 5 quarterbacks ever to fully start their first 3 years and have a negative passing DYR in all of them. So I don't know if what he's done recently is enough to make you think Justin Fields is worth rolling the dice on for one more year when you have the ability to go out and get your guy number 1 overall. But he's at least made himself look like a real tasty prize for the Pittsburghs and Atlantas of the world next year if he goes.
God, New England Patriot Justin Fields.
It's got a nice ring to it.
No, it doesn't. Don't lie to yourself.
It's got a better ring to it than Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones. I guess I've just really been it's Stockholm syndrome at this point with me and Patriots quarterbacking since Brady. I don't know what I want anymore.
Yeah, and we're better off not knowing at this point. We're better off just figuring it out as it comes.
So talk me through. You were the one explaining last week. The Patriots, if they and the Commanders both lose, the odds are the Commanders will still maintain the 2nd pick in the draft, or will that go to the Patriots because of the strength of record tiebreaker?
The strength of record tiebreaker on Tankathon is weird because it only updates. I had thought that the strength of record tiebreaker would have meant that the Cardinals leapfrogged us, or the Cardinals' loss essentially meant nothing. And it still doesn't make a ton of sense to me as to why they fell from number 1 to number 4 with this, because they have lost to the Commanders, but the strength of schedule pushes them all the way back to 4. So they still have like a super high strength of schedule at 0.562. And that's using all – I don't think it does, because it says that strength of schedule is using all 17 opponents. But the loss to Dallas will obviously give Dallas a higher winning percentage and like boost it up. But right now, it is a separation of 3 1,000ths of a percent. So it's collectively, I don't know how it sort of shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even tell, right? Because, like, for example, you're thinking about who they play this week, but the Patriots have the Broncos on their schedule, right? So whether they beat the Raiders or not impacts their strength of schedule. And there's games where, you know, both teams that are playing have played the Pats, and there's games where only one team played the Pats. So there's too much still to.
I'm trying to math it out. Where like it helps that
I don't know if you can.
Patriots and Commanders played each other, and that the two teams' divisions played each other as well. So there's a knowledge base there, but I don't think head-to-head tiebreaker matters for the sake of separating like 2 to 4 in this case, because the Cardinals played Washington, and Washington beat the Cardinals. But they're below the Cardinals in the rankings. That was that week 1 game, remember?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. And they beat New England too. So I don't know why they're in front of both of them per se. But like, if we're just doing collective scheduling, there's a lot of math, and there is still, if both teams lose, roll the dice, we could have a circumstance shake out where the Patriots make up 3 1,000th of a point and supersede the Washington Commanders on Sunday night in Week 18. But man, it's going to be interesting.
Or Jacoby could just ball. You never know.
But I hope. Listen, I'd love nothing more than Jacoby Brissett to ball. I wrote up the. I think the title of my last Football Outsiders Any Given Sunday article was called Everything Everywhere Goes Wrong for Dallas All at Once, which shows you the specific time, and it was in reference to the Sam Howell Week 18 game against the Cowboys, where it just completely fell apart for them. I don't think it had any – I think they were still playing for some sort of marginal seeding. I think division was out of hand at that point, but it was like a 5 versus 6. So like Dak was still playing. They still had legit guys playing. And Howell just balled. And I'm hoping Jacoby can ball, because McCarthy has some stink on him. Like he could foul this up with ease if he so chooses.
He really could. And ironically enough, you've got you're taking away Sam Howell's chances to make history here, which is a real bummer. He was in line for all sorts of records, sacks and interceptions and whatnot, and they've all just been gone by the wayside now that Brissett's coming in. I guess he did slow his sack pace down pretty significantly, so he wasn't going to touch the all-time single-season record. But number of turnovers. It was a pretty historic season that Sam Howell was putting together. That's being ruined at the hands of a Week 18 Jacoby Brissett appearance. So I hope it at least nets the Patriots the number 2 pick of the draft. These are teams that we're going to keep talking about if you're ready for it, Cale. New Year's resolutions. It is January 1st. shouts to us. We made it 2024. Some of us made it disease. Some of us made it coming out of diseases, but here we are. Want to make some resolutions for some really crappy NFL teams, Cale?
Goddamn right I do.
We're going to talk about the eliminated teams. So it worked out pretty nicely that there are 12 officially eliminated teams. A lot of teams that are pretty damn close to eliminated, but not officially. So they will not be getting resolutions this year. And the first team, the team that has been eliminated, I guess you could say the most recently, and certainly tied for the best record of the eliminated teams, is it's those Cincinnati Bengals. Cale, they were looking good until they weren't anymore. In the last 2 weeks, made it fall apart. So talk me through how the Cincinnati Bengals are going to restore prominence in the year of our Lord 2024.
They're gonna throw on some. Marie Kondo. They're gonna just learn the act of tidying up, and they're gonna learn to live with less. This was a team that, again, these are seat of the pants like last week. I'm flying off top of dome. I'm excited about this. I forgot to preface that. That's how my brain works this week. But yeah, they're gonna learn to live with less. This is a team that used to have just a whole gaggle of secondary talent, a really strong defense, an up-and-coming defensive coordinator, 3 legit receivers, a starting quarterback, good offensive line, rookie contract running back. A lot of those things are coming to term. T. Higgins, pretty much gone. The safety's already gone. Joe Mixon, likely gone. There's a lot of things coming to pass, and Cincinnati's going to need to get leaner and more creative. Hey, Luna Anarumo might be gone too. Like, this is a team that's going to have to learn to love what they have, learn to appreciate what they have, and learn to maximize the usefulness of what they have.
I like it. It's minimalism is really what it is. It's just shedding the excesses of the early 2020s and just, really rebirthing their mid 2020s as to, understanding what their essentials are and really, learning to cherish what it is that they need and letting go of all those excesses. So that's the Cincinnati Bengals, folks. Next up, another 8-8 team, drastically different future situation. It's the Denver Broncos. Now, we know about the public situation with Russell Wilson on his way out. My resolution is just commitment, I think. And, that commitment can be scary when you just made a bad commitment, right? Like they gave up a lot of assets in the Russell Wilson deal. They hitched their wagon to the wrong post. And when that happens, that can be really scary to put yourself back in the market. But the Broncos have a decently talented team. And we know the Chiefs are, certainly not on their way up in the AFC West. We know that division can be had by the right team next year. So, whether that's the trade market, whether that's the draft, the Broncos have got to, really find their leading man this offseason. So I think it's just a real simple, their resolution has to be commitment, formulate a new plan, stick to the plan, trust your guy.
Learn to love again.
Exactly. Put yourself out there. Take chances, Broncos.
You got to be ready to get hurt.
Exactly. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders.
I think there's a certain sense in coming to terms with who you are. And who you are is not a very good football team. And it's not mean. It's not mean, but you cycled through a healthy number of head coaches since the departure of one John Gruden. Things haven't gone great. Even pre-Gruden, things were pretty bad, undesirable. You're pretty wayward at the moment. You gotta embrace who you are for a little bit. You gotta stink it up. But more importantly, got to embrace AP. You got to embrace Antonio Pierce. He is, in a way that I don't think is like toxic, for lack of a better term. He's bringing back good old-fashioned Raider ball. The autumn wind is a pirate. Like I am getting those vibes again. I am getting nasty. I am getting black hole. I am getting like good old-fashioned Raiders ball. Jack Jones stealing balls from kids or fake giving balls to kids, I guess. Cigars in the locker room. It feels old school. It feels nasty. It feels fun. There's not a lot of success when it comes to bringing the interim in. It's a losing record all time. Very few teams make the playoffs. There's not a strong track record to it.
But we also just haven't seen it in a while. I mean, the last one was Freddie Kitchens.
Beg you to respect Jim Tom Sula. I guess I can't think of any more. But these are an eclectic group, and Antonio Pierce is a special leader of men. I think he's done great work so far in Detroit, and I hope he continues to get the opportunity in Detroit.
I don't know what that was. Yeah,
in Vegas, I was looking at something blue in the corner. I wasn't even looking at Detroit. He's done great work in Vegas. I'm losing my mind. He just deserves more work.
It's a real stop trying to be what others try to project onto you. People try to reform the Raiders, etc. Just be who you are. That's what they've always been when they've been successful throughout their history, which admittedly has been a while. So just be the Raiders and embrace it. I think that's very fair. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. My only resolution for the Chicago Bears, who are now 7-9, which is the best record they've had since that playoff season where they lost the Nickelodeon game with Trubisky. So already improving in many degrees, but I think the only resolution I want to make for them is just make a decision. Who's your guy? Who's your quarterback at number one?
Yes.
We've seen what happens when you're indecisive, and it's the Carolina Panthers right now. And it's David Tepper throwing drinks on people in Jacksonville after fully admitting they traded up for that number one pick, having no idea who they were taking. So, you've had, the clock starts now. You've got 5 months, essentially. Pick your guy, stick to your guy, be confident in that decision behind your guy, and build the right roster, most importantly, for your guy to be successful. So I don't fully know which of the two is the ideal fit for that Bears roster right now or the ideal fit for that organization long-term. But I resolve to have that decision made and be confident, have vindication and conviction behind that decision.
You just need someone you've been around for 102 years at this point. There's no need to still be bad at quarterback. You just need somebody.
It's pretty much, yeah.
You just need literally just a body, just a guy who could play quarterback and a guy that you can put confidence in. The fact that keeping Eberflus around should show that there just needs to be new voice in the building in some regard. They'll never sell the Bears. I think that we're talking about selling the Bears at some point. I don't know. But until that team just goes new ownership, top down, it'll just continue to exist in this unimportant middle ground of NFL history.
Yeah, and part of that resolution too is it's kind of the same thing with the Denver one, where it's don't be afraid to put yourself back out there. Even knowing that you got hurt the last time they drafted a first-round quarterback from North Carolina, did not break their way. So you can't be afraid to dip back into that same, dating pool if that is indeed your guy, because, Carolina QBs are knocking once again.
Yes, they are. They are knocking, and this one's better.
This one is better, we think, but you never know until he's out there. So that's the Chicago Bears. Cale, next up, I mean, obviously you had to take this team. It's the New York Jets.
Learn to let go. Like, that's the one I want to give to the Patriots, but like, learn to let go. You fucked up. Let's be real. The Rodgers was in singularity a good idea. The 8 months that followed, the accompanying GM decisions, and the isolated incident of injury were bad. Just the isolated incident you can't control. You controlled everything else, though. You could have shut Rodgers up. You could have put your foot down and drafted guys that complemented an offense, or sign guys that complemented an offense more, or didn't bring in Nathaniel Hackett. Like, I understand you can't remove Rodgers from those decisions, but those were all bad. And you can't do those.
It's not that you can't. You chose not to.
You shouldn't. You can. You saw that you could. But, like, by the end of the year, Lazard is a healthy scratch. Like, it's kind of useless. And those are problems. Now, this is now a team that, at our current understanding, will pretty much run it back with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. You are putting Saleh on an unnecessarily hot seat. Like, he flipped a league worst defense and turned it into a consistent top 5 contending defense, with one of the better, probably best defensive lines outside of San Francisco. I'd say top 3. I'd maybe throw Dallas in that mix too. You have an elite cornerback rotation. Safeties are hit or miss. Like, you've put together a once in a decade kind of defense for your team. As did Joe Douglas. But Joe Douglas is also, like, made a bunch of bad decisions. Saleh's made a bunch of bad coaching decisions with regards to how this offense is operated. There's a reason that he's had, multiple iterations of offensive coordinators in the building, and none of them have been able to produce anything. Joe Douglas should be blamed for not having ever built an offensive line, or not taking the fault of drafting Zach Wilson in the first place, but the hubris of forcing him to start and thinking that he would or forcing him to start over taking a backup quarterback, thinking you would be able to recoup draft value for him in the offseason, is hubris and has eventually led to the downfall of this team. Now you're just running back everything. Don't do that. Let go.
See, I almost go the other way. I almost wonder if that's a 2025 resolution, because I think letting go in this sense, like, if you're letting go of Rodgers, what are Douglas and Saleh still around for? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
What are they getting for next year? So you're just letting go of everything this year? You're not running it back one more time at all?
The Jets are hanging on a string, and I'm saying free fall.
I think I don't see a title in their future, obviously, but I think this season is almost their 2021 Rams season, where it's like, okay, we know the process has been bad. We know that how we've gotten to this current roster construction is bad, and we will probably have to pay the piper at some point. But, let's let this thing ride this year, and maybe in the once in a blue moon chances that the Rams got in 2021, you luck your way into some postseason success. Not even a title necessarily, but it's been so long since the Jets have won a playoff game. It's like, hey, if that's what we accomplish this year, then it's, enough of a success, and then we can get rid of Aaron on our terms, potentially. We'll see from there. But
try to get rid of Zach on their terms, and it hasn't totally paid off.
No. Look, hitching your wagon to Aaron Rodgers is always going to be a difficult thing to come back from at this stage of his career. We knew that there would be potential ramifications, and we thought that, him playing winning football with the rest of the roster they constructed would be enough. So things went so obviously awry this year that it mucks up the plans, but I still feel like they're in that spot they were last year. They've kind of tied their fortunes to him. So we'll see if they can somehow get out of it, as you suggest. That's worth aspiring to. There's no doubt about that. Now, the Tennessee Titans are next on our list. I find it very difficult to make a resolution for a team that doesn't really know what its future looks like, doesn't know who is going to be playing for the team. I wish for the Titans is just a complete teardown. I think they have to resolve to stink next year and completely just rebuild this whole thing from scratch. My resolution is let go of any hopes you had from 2-3 years ago, sneaking into the playoffs somehow. Just reset the clock. You've got a good coach. You don't have much else. Just be bad for a year and hope that helps you become better for the future.
Jackson, frankly, couldn't disagree more.
Oh boy.
My exact resolution was just going to be just have fun. Just let loose. Let your hair down. You got Mayo diet at quarterback. You got, offensive line's not great. Weapons aren't great. Derrick Henry's hitting the sticks, but you got Tyjae Spears out there. Real fun. Dual threat running back, hyper athletic. You got a defense that is extremely strong in the front seven, but not so much in the secondary. And you don't really have a ton of pass catchers, but you're in year one of a new GM. What you've seen out of Levis has been okay, especially given the circumstance of the group that he's with. Hopkins did some interesting things this year, and you've got him there for a hot minute. Your best draft hit's been Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, UDFA receiver.
Best draft hit wasn't a draft hit.
Yeah. Traylon Burks has been an absolute no-show since you've drafted him, and he's approaching the Cale Harry status, but you got no pressure to make him work. You could try to make him work, and I would advise trying to make him work, but Chig Okonkwo is awesome. You got DeAndre Hopkins. You got you got a legit fine core in there with the deepest wide receiver draft in a hot minute. Just have fun, ball out. Just try and lean into something.
All right. Well, I almost feel like our two different resolutions are almost heading in the same direction. I feel like the Titans are heading for a rebuild, and that's
I'm just saying if it's bad, it'll show itself. This isn't. It's not a team with these Tennessee is not New England. Tennessee is not Kansas City. Tennessee is not even in New York, where it is a city big enough to have high expectations. This is not a franchise of pedigree. This is not a franchise of anything. This is a franchise that's got a kick-ass $2 billion stadium complex coming in the next 5 years. Asses need to be put in seats. This is a team that just needs to literally be fun. And they could try and be fun. And if in trying to be fun with a good head coach and a scrappy group of dudes does not pan out, then yeah, you suck by default. Like, that's the thing. You weren't too far away from sucking anyway. Just try and make it work with what you got.
Yeah. I mean, they still need to supplement a lot. If the rebuild is going to be like a 2-year process, like this is the year you find out if Levis is a guy and you get 2 linemen, a receiver, and probably a tight end too, and just try and stack the deck on offense, because you have enough interesting pieces defensively to like put together a coherent defense, especially with Vrabel at the helm. But the offense is a pretty big mess right now, and obviously line and receiver are like the two where it's barren wasteland, save for an aging DeAndre Hopkins. So regardless of what the resolution is, like I guess the resolution is just like invest heavily in the offense, in addition to probably stinking next year and giving yourself the best chance at a home run pick in 2025. So we'll see where all of that leads. But that leads us into the second half of these teams, and by George, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. Cale, what can you cook up for them?
The joke I want to make is not good for air, and I won't say it. God, man, just not. I keep wanting to just say like let go, because I'm saving let go for New England. I used it for the Jets, so I'm not really saving it. But like this isn't let go of like just give up on like your shit, just like for your current situation. And like, take the loss where you had it. This is more a larger letting go of past events. The Chargers' bad mojo, the sage cleansing of SoFi that we have long spoken about. I know it was MetLife, but we've definitely mentioned that the Chargers need some spiritual cleansing. This is a team with a rough go of things of late, and they need help. They need something. This is a roster that needs a full rebuild, and their window's officially closed with Herbert. And if you can let go of that, and if you can try and rebuild on the fly, if you can make Quentin Johnson and Mike Williams and a receiver this year work, awesome. If you can't, that's a problem. If you can let go of Ack, awesome. If you can continue to not hit on running backs the way you have, that's a problem. If you can work with the poor defensive talent you've acquired over the past few years, awesome. If you can't, that's a problem. But don't let your past define you. Move forward with a clear mind and vigilant eyes. Just be present in the moment and stop dwelling on what an absolute horror house your entire franchise is.
Yeah, this is the like try new things team for me. This is the like maybe take up meditation or yoga or like some random outdoor hobby like horseback riding, or just become a really intense hiker. They just need that, most of the same people are going to be there, at least, on like the high end sides of, offense and defense. Obviously, they're going to cut some dead weight in guys like Eckler, guys like Keenan Allen, etc. But I mean, Herbert's going to be there. Bosa and, Khalil Mack and most of the secondary, like they're still going to be around. So just see what you can do to reinvigorate yourself, new mantras, new, like you said, new spiritual existence. And that can help lead this team to rediscovering themselves a little bit, and no longer being the team that everybody laughs at because they choke all the time. That's the end goal. And I think the only way to do that is to try and reinvent themselves. So with that in mind, I mean, candidates for reinvention, the New York Giants are pretty high on the list too. Coming off a playoff berth, it was one of the quickest destructions of goodwill I think I've ever seen from a team to their fan base. It was pretty much just one game, and the entirety of last season was forgotten, and Giants fans were back in their misery. And the only thing that could rescue them at all from any of their misery this year was like 3 weeks of just, hey, this guy's really Italian, and we can get behind that because a bunch of us are super Italian too. So my resolution for the 2024 New York Giants is let's just clean house and get to 2025. The Daniel Jones contract was bad. You can get out of it after this year. Just cut bait and move on after this year. This year's going to be bad. I don't see any way around it. Maybe try to find a receiver because you still haven't for 5 years. I don't hate Jalen Hyatt, but he's not a wide receiver one. So, try to improve at the margins and then, admit your mistake and cut bait with Daniel Jones after the season.
We also don't know if he's not a wide receiver one because also wide receiver is not nearly their biggest need relative to, getting a tackle. At least he'll be able to get a tackle in this draft now that God, this is really going to be another 3 quarterback draft. Huh? I can't believe we're having another one of those. At least he'll be able to get Olu, who's transcendent. Joe Alt is up there as well. I'm pumped for this mock right now from Tankathon. It has a 3-quarter, is actually a sick. We did Christmas gifts or whatever one ads a few weeks ago. The top 7 for this right now, frankly. Outside of the 3 quarterbacks, 4, because we've talked about most of these teams already. Or not some of them, but we will at some point. 4, Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals. 5, Olu to the Giants. 6, Joe Alt to the Chargers. 7, Malik Neighbors to the Titans. That's about as good as you can ask for all of the teams that we have already talked about here.
Some good gifts. Santa's still around. He's giving good gifts, my friend.
What all of those teams need. And if you need defensive talent, there isn't as much in this draft, but God, you'll be able to find it in spades because straight up 10 of the first 11 picks on this board are offensive. You're going to be able to get a haul if you're a team in defensive need.
Well, while we're on the subject of all these teams that need things, Cardinals are up next. And, you just put Marvin Harrison on their team, so I don't know if that equates to a resolution, but find me a resolution and whether or not that involves him in the building.
It's the resolution there is just, have faith. Have faith in who you are as a team and build an ethos around yourself because what you have right now could be a fun football team. John Gannon has done a solid job so far. We did the Steichen thing again where we kind of laughed at him being a weirdo and then realized hey, he's a pretty solid football coach. But this is a team that is pretty barren, will continue to accrue talent. We're putting Marvin Harrison on him. I bet you the rest of this draft is just the Cardinals adding defensive talent. I've already seen two defensive line picks and Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama at 17 for these guys. So they are going all in on a defense.
Do you have 2 first rounders? That is nice.
Yes. You just need to be able to define what you want as a franchise, who you are, and more importantly, stay true to that identity. Don't let the haters get to you. Don't say, "Oh, you need a new quarterback," or "You're out of position for a quarterback. You won a game, and I'm thankful you won a game. You don't need a quarterback. You have Kyler Murray on this massive deal. Play with him, build around him, keep building an offensive line for him, keep putting players like Marvin Harrison Jr. around him, and stockpile a defense while you can." You need to keep going to the well with cheap young offensive talent and, frankly, cheap young offensive linemen too. They count as talent, but talent's always referred to skill position players. Just stick with this. Like really ride this out. You're in this bag for a few years. Stick with this. That's all I want. Just stay true and have faith.
Now that one flies very much in the face of the one that we're about to do. And I know it's my turn, but you've already teased this, I think, 2 or 3 times throughout the course of this segment. It is New England Patriots time, and I think we can collectively say this one together. Let go. It's time. It's just time to be a new team, a new franchise. Honestly, my resolution might be, Pat the Patriot. No more flying Elvis. That was Brady and Belichick's thing. I think we might need a new brand in addition to just a new overall team ethos and roster construction.
It's the let go is more about Belichick. I don't think it's totally roster construction. I do think there's
on one side of the ball, it's not. I agree with that.
But regionality has some necessity in a game. It's the reason why it's part of the reason why Chicago's never had a good quarterback because weather. That stadium next to the Great Lake that I cannot remember. Is it Superior there? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that would be Michigan.
Whatever. They're not Erie too, are they?
No, I'm saying Lake Michigan.
It's Lake Michigan for Illinois.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
All right. All right. Don't lie to me. No, I believe you. But it's part of the reason why they've always been defense and run heavy. It's unfortunately a part of their environment, and they own it. The thing with that is, like, I think you still need, like, you need to be able to throw down the field and you need to be able to play some ball. I don't know. I don't know where this train of thought was going. Let go. Fine. After you get Jaden Daniels, because you're not getting Drake May at this point, I don't know who's going to be left. The Xavier Worthy is the guy from the Xavier Leggett. He could be available. They got Troy Flank from Oregon going. I'd love to trade back up and go get O'Dunes, but the fallacy of is O'Dunes trading up ever going to be better than the collective assets you use to trade up? That's always a problem, but someone's going to be desperate enough. See if you can throw in legit personnel talent instead of giving up future assets. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
trade one of the 19 good defensive players you have to try and improve the many other needs across the Baron roster. Now, I mean, the last 2 are maybe the toughest tasks of all, but we can try. New Year's resolution for the Washington Commanders. More Major Tutty. Where is he, Cale? I haven't heard from him. I think I need Major Tutty at my birthday party. I need Major Tutty at ribbon cutting ceremonies. I just need more of him. I think just forge forward under the strong hand of Tutty, and this team can be great once more.
Do you?
Once more, because they've been great, obviously.
I agree. I would like them to keep Bieniemy in house, and I'm curious to see how this process will eventually go with Bieniemy and their eventual decision on Ron Rivera, because I want them to keep this offense up because they're just throwing at a crazy rate. They're being hoopers. I just want them to keep the course on that. And I don't know how it bodes in the future.
I don't either, but I mean, you've seen what Casey looks like without Bieniemy, so obviously losing him is not really the answer for anyone at this stage of their offensive development. So I'm in with you on that part of the plan for sure.
I'm just saying, like, Jahan Dotson's a good-ass receiver. Ryan Robinson's a good running back.
Sure is.
And just neither of them maximize their full potential because the offensive line's bad and the quarterback's bad. Terry McLaurin could be a top 20 guy in the league, and he's okay because he, for whatever reason, is getting thrown balls by Sam Howell. If we put Jacoby Brissett in earlier, who knows? But I don't know. We'll see how things go.
I would enjoy Caleb Williams on this team. I think that would be fun. I don't think many things about the Commanders throughout the past 10 years have been fun, but this franchise was fun the last time they drafted a quarterback number 2 overall. So if that's where they are and they take another one here, I'm in.
I equally think Drake May would be just as fun, and I'm so pumped that I'm genuinely so pumped that Jaden Daniels is going to be a New England Patriot, even though it's Drake May, because I just think Jaden Daniels is like hyper athletic, and if the Commanders were in the spot at 3, they would probably be taking Jaden Daniels, and that would be bad because you just brought up RG3, and I thought about FedEx Field.
Well, nobody wants to play on FedEx Field turf, to be very, very clear. But equally, nobody might want to play for the Panthers. And without a first-round pick to turn to, and as much as I want the resolution to just be, David Tepper sell the team challenge, I want to be within the realms of realistic improvements here. So, boy, where are we siding with the Carolina Panthers?
David Tepper sell the team speed run has a good ring to it because he's getting close there. I'd like to see him do it. Will he? I don't know. But God, it'd be awesome. I don't know what a good resolution there is. It's just, listen, man, sometimes you have down years. And you use New Year's as the time to say, I'm gonna reinvent myself. I'm gonna get really into turquoise. I'm gonna buy that gym membership. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna, find the girl. I'm gonna do it all this year. It's gonna be my year. And frankly, that level of disillusion, or just pure, not disillusion, but just delusion, has to be the Panthers' mindset. That has to be what their headspace is in 2024, because frankly, they need it, because they don't look like they're going uphill anytime soon.
Yeah. Delusion. That's the word. I think just tell yourself this is going to be a good year, and maybe it's not, and maybe every single person involved with the team is gone in a year's time, but since those are the people they have now, just trick yourself into thinking you can be good, and maybe there's a world where you can be okay. So I like that ending. I think that's a happy enough note to end on, a transition to game balls, if I do say so myself, and I'll let you take the reins on offense.
Yeah, I'm going Jordan Love. I think the stat was in his last 7 or 8 games, he's 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. I throw around Hooper pretty flippantly. Jordan Love is hooping. Last night, one of his better of the season, 245, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, that's his first game of the season. I flipped the box score. Wasn't too far off. 256, 3 touchdowns on 24 for 33, 0 interceptions. It was damn close. A lot more accurate.
Really?
72.7%. Second high, or third highest accuracy. I'm just looking at Pro Football Reference stuff. He's just playing good ball. Additional rushing touchdown there too. I completely forgot about that. An athletic one because that tip barely got over the line.
That's right.
He's just playing awesome, man. He is on a damn good streak of football, and it's the last 7 games. This is 16-1, by the way. And the Packers are just playing like they've found their guy again. And I'm not saying he's generational. I'm not saying he's Hall of Fame like Rodgers and Favre are, but like this is about as good as you could ask for from Jordan Love in year 4/year 1.
Yeah, I mean, 19 touchdowns to 3 picks since their run of better play began as a team. So that's in the last 9 games, 19-3. And if I'm not mistaken, the team is 6-3 in those 9 games. So you can work with this. You really can. I mean, obviously you want to see him in the playoffs this year. So the number one objective is beat the Bears and get to the playoffs. And they haven't had trouble beating the Bears in the past as a franchise. So I almost feel like this game ball is like bestowing trust in Jordan Love to go out and do that this week and get himself that playoff experience because they'll be better for it moving forward. So an excellent use of game ball there. We just moved from a team that put themselves in position to make the playoffs. I'll go to a team that did make the playoffs. And Kyren Williams has been balling for a while now, really establishing himself as one of the, I would say, 4 or 5 most explosive runners in the league since he came back from injury. And 3 touchdowns this week. That's all the touchdowns the Rams offense scored, propelling them into the playoffs. So with all that in mind, actually, I lied. They had 4 touchdowns and they just missed an extra point and missed a 2. But anyway, 3 of the 4 touchdowns, and they needed every single one of them in a 1-point win against the Giants. He's just been balling. Like I said, he had the one weird game where he had great stats, but he also had the 2 fumbles. And other than that, he's pretty much just been excellent always. He didn't have 100 yards on the ground yesterday, which is kind of rare for him lately. But I mean, who else had 3 touchdowns at the running back or receiver or tight end position yesterday? Nobody that I can think of. So it's got to be Kyren.
Kyren helped me bring just put bread on the table of this podcast. Bring home a fantasy championship alongside Jerome Ford. We're leaving out the Browns beat down of the Jets from Thursday night, but Kyren's been awesome, man. Kyren's been legit really good. Super impressed by what he has done this year.
Yeah, and just what he brings to that offense, how much more dynamic they can be when they're able to throw it and run it at the higher success rates that they have since he's been back.
Super explosive back. Just very fun to watch.
Defense. Want me to go? I'll go. I'll take Will Anderson. I know that we're talking about going up against a Tennessee QB tandem. That both, I mean, Tannehill was okay, I guess, after he came in, but, game was already well over at that point. Will Levis had a 5.3 QBR and got hurt, but still needs to be said that Will Anderson's just been doing stuff on both sides of the ball for quite some time now. Now, in this specific game, if I can find his stats. Oh, there he is. Yes, 2 sacks. 2 sacks, 2 other tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. I don't know. It's just it's kind of crept on us like, oh, yeah, they drafted this guy number 3 overall. And he was, being somewhat impactful early in the season. But, I mean, his first big play came on special teams in week 3. And, the sacks weren't coming at first. But now he's really kind of, started to settle into that, high first-round talent that we knew he could be. And this Texans defense, as good as it can be now, needs to be, really good for the future because their window is just beginning to open up. And, this is a guy that's probably going to be one of the biggest parts of that. So up to 7 sacks on the year, I'll take Willie A.
Pretty much the only D Roy I can super think of. No, I guess Jalen Carter. It'll probably be Carter on that Philly defense, but
Agreed.
Anderson is definitely deserving of consideration, of recognition for the year that he has had. Because he's balling. He's balling indeed. Actually, it'll be a tough contest. I thought he was a lot higher. He's at 6. I'm curious to see what
the tackle position though, that goes farther.
So yeah. I'm just curious to see how it shakes out, like pressures wise, like what he's doing initially, run stops he's had, etc. How he could sort of build that case out. But my offensive game ball goes to a guy who kind of single-handedly put Arthur Smith in his back pocket, and this is purely a. I'll give a shout out to Rasul Douglas for the pick 6 against the Patriots and additional 3 passes defensed, or pass deflections. I guess I don't know if they do pass deflections or passes defensed here in ESPN box scores, but 3 of those. God, long day. But Tyreek Stevenson, Chicago Bears. This is purely a box score game ball award, I will admit, but pretty impressive box score to say the least. 5 total tackles, 4 solo tackles, tied for team high. 4 passes defensed and an additional 2 interceptions in Sunday's 37-17 handling of the Atlanta Falcons, just everywhere in this game.
They were all everywhere. They manhandled. That was a classic dismantling and one that I think we all appreciated as, fans of the direction that the Bears are headed, and just flummoxed by what this season has become for a Falcons team that we thought was, talented enough to win a division title. It just, it was cathartic, and especially that it happened, in snow flurries, and, you see which team, still has energy and which one is close to packing it in. And Stevenson and that defense were just ball hawking and having a blast out there. So I love that game ball. Special teams, we have 1. We talked about it. We're not doing 2 special teams game balls this week. We're doing 1. And we'll use this time to talk about noted first-round receiver Jalen Reagor, who is, of course, no longer blossoming into a superstar for either the Eagles or Vikings. He is merely a kick returner for the Patriots, and he housed the opening kick yesterday. Not even going to be mean. I'm just going to say good for you, Jalen. Good for you for, showcasing that athleticism and making a nice play and scoring some points in the NFL, which is always a tough thing to do.
It is. Special teams touchdowns are always hard to come by, and they're never not impressive when they are accomplished. So, hats off to you, Mr. Reagor.
Yeah, weirdly reminiscent of last year too, when Nyheim Hines took the opening kick for a touchdown in the DeMar Hamlin return game.
I was going to say you cannot compare those, but I'm glad you at least brought up the Hamlin side of it.
Yeah, it was just weird. It wasn't the same at all. It was quite different, in fact. But just the fact that it happened between the same 2 teams on the same field almost exactly 1 year later is, I'll just say it's weird.
It's interesting,
to say the very least. Now, with game balls out of the way, I think we go ahead and knock these uniforms out. And I'm just going to say it wasn't a very good uniform week. I'm just going to preface all this by saying that. But I did have a very Cale colors-oriented uniform game this week that I was excited to share with you all. So did you know the Carolina Panthers, in all their many years, have never worn light blue pants with white jerseys until yesterday? They had never done it. They didn't introduce the light blue pants until the Color Rush days, so I think that was about 2015, and they pretty much only wore it as a Color Rush. But it worked. I'm here to tell you, it worked. And you go up against Jacksonville, who's teal. It's just, it's kind of that turquoise, blue-based fun colors, juxtaposition. I appreciated that game because even though I don't particularly love either team's uniforms, I thought they made the most of it in the matchup. And it was like a fun score bug too. Like you like seeing those colors next to each other. Just the whole thing, pops a lot more visually than it did in terms of actually being a well-played football game. So got to give some love there.
Yes, that was you like when like I said, I've always given credit for creativity. You want teams trying stuff. That was a good one.
And not to mention, these are teams that came in the league in the same year and both named themselves after big cats, which I don't know if I'll ever understand. But it does need to be said, those original jerseys, if they ever played a game against each other where they both wore like their 1995 jerseys, that would go bananas. I need to see that.
Jackson, do you want to know something?
Tell me.
I found a fun fact from a little YouTube short on Jacksonville. The crux of the story was about how Jaguar, the car company, had sued Jacksonville at their onset because the logo was too similar to the car company. But on the rebrand, they did the headshot and they added a teal tongue. Do you know what the teal tongue is supposed to represent?
I don't. I know we've talked extensively about this tongue before.
We have. It's a piece of podcast lore. That teal tongue is a specific dig at the Panthers. It's supposed to be like eating the Panthers.
Whoa.
It's
That's something.
It was very funny to have this, like, I'm zoned out, like brain dead from COVID, just staring at a phone 3 inches from my face, watching YouTube shorts on football teams. I'm just like, that tongue is a
credible source
in so many ways.
Very, very credible YouTube short source, I presume, as well. Guy that knows his ball.
It was a guy who does a lot of like logistics on stadium news, like this NFL team is the only stadium who faces north-south and goes through like a history of it. It was a lot better research than a lot of just random stuff, highly produced. I don't know the name of the channel, but it's all their stories. He doesn't just do football. All their content starts with a top down of the stadium and then like an expansion of the logo. So if you've ever been on Sports Talk or Sports Short, Sports Tube, and seeing that format, that is the creator I am referring to.
Yes. Now, it is time for your uniform game of the week on that very exciting note.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, I guess. Again, we're talking creative colors here. There's something very New Year's about a gold, a black, a pewter.
Pewter.
I'm thinking more like a velvet red, but like the velvet red has that weird color sheen that is the equivalent or adjacent rather to a pewter. So that's literally all I have. The Tampa Bay Bucks.
I see where you're going with that.
The Tampa Bay Bucks looked awesome.
They do.
Those uniforms looked great. I am all in on new unis there. The pewter tops. There's like the red tops, the brown bottoms. I don't know which is pewter.
Pewter's the brown.
Well, forget the red velvet thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Pewter is a metal. It's the color. The color
it
of
is.
the
It's
metal
a
is
copper.
that metallic
It's a
color.
copper. You are right. You are right.
Velvet rope red.
They look good as hell. And Jags was starting to talk Saints kind of washed uniform.
I fully think they're washed from a uniform perspective.
I was kind of there with the Bears. I don't think it's like wash.
But the Bears have never changed. The Saints are just kind of stuck in like 2010. That's the distinction I see.
No, I was just saying, like, in the same way that you have said that the Saints are washed, I have gotten, and you're tired of their uniform. I've gotten tired of the Bears uniform.
Very understandable.
But the Saints color scheme is that good that I just think is worth having. Like, that carries it on its own. You're muted.
That's good. That's a good moment in our history. I finally caught myself on mute. Sorry, I had external forces coming in to ask questions of me, and I was unable to get my finger off the mute button.
Understandable.
That's a podcast head scratcher, and that'll take us into real head scratchers. And
we took so long on those resolutions. I know it's the pace of a normal episode, but
as we discussed, there's one real major head scratcher this week. And I don't want to like rehash the entire thing necessarily, but everyone knows what we're talking about, right?
I was just saying, frankly, it deserves to be.
An easy head scratcher of the year candidate. The Detroit Lions go in to Dallas. They're down 2013. They score a touchdown to make it 2019 with under 30 seconds to play. And they decide to go for two and the win. In doing so, they send tackle Taylor Decker in to report as eligible. They may have pulled some chicanery where Skipper, the guard, is coming in to make it look like he's the one reporting as eligible, but it appears to be clear as day on replay that Goff pointed to Decker in the huddle, said, "Go report yourself as eligible," and he went up to the official. Nobody knows what was said besides him and the official. In the stadium, they report Skipper as eligible, which makes no sense because Decker lined up as an eligible receiver and Skipper did not. They throw the pass to Decker. He's wide open. The trick play works. Dan Campbell said he had warned the officials before the game that specific trick play was coming. And then they whistle it for an ineligible receiver. So what happened? What fell apart there? What was the misconnection? Referee Brad Allen's crew, first of all, the post-game pool report, Brad Allen basically just said, like, I did absolutely nothing wrong. Skipper reported as eligible. Decker didn't say anything about it. And then the very following day, it gets reported that Allen's crew is going to be taken off playoff duties. So seems like it was just a referee fuck up. And we talk about these far too often. It's no fun when a game just comes down to a referee fuck up. And this one was one of the more egregious ones you'll see, barring Dan Campbell just getting mad and going for two twice more in a row when they probably should have just taken the PAT. That clearly, in the moment cost them a very, very good chance to win the game. And there was no reason that needed to happen besides just pure ineptitude.
Even the pure logistics of the just the logic of either three different Lions lied, Dan Campbell included. I'm talking about the pool report. Either three different Lions lied or I am wrong. Which is more likely? I'd say it's more likely that you're wrong because the referees have been wrong just so frequently this season. Again, we've talked about how big of a problem the referee issue is. Maybe we could get to a point and say that the Lions were a bit too sneaky because they were not one but two but three different players reporting. Because Penei Sewell also at one point went over to report. Maybe you're gonna have an issue with reporting players. Campbell was also wrong in the press conference. He came out and said, like, you can't have two guys report, which is incorrect. You can't have as many players as you have available report, but you can't. There's some issue. I forget what the issue was. There was some correction that I think Steratore made. But there's just this obvious thing with the tape. They put it best in the broadcast. It's a 2-point conversion to win the game. Not only is this a big deal, but the clock is fully stopped. We can time this out. We can work this thing out. We can take this slow. It shouldn't be this bad.
Yeah. And he's, the real egregious lie is saying like, oh, I saw Skipper tell me he wanted to report as eligible, and that's what happened. Because when you look at the replay of the situation, yes, Skipper is running in that direction. He doesn't come close to making it there by the time Allen nods his head seemingly at Decker, and Decker's clearly saying something to him and then walks away. So in my personal headcanon, he just saw 70 in the background running up to him while he was listening to the other linemen talk and just got them mixed up in his head. And that's, that is not a good enough reason to overturn the outcome of a game. It's just, not knowing the number 70 from the number 68. So, yeah, I mean, this is just a bad one. We've had a string of bad ones. Ironically enough, Brad Allen's crew was the one that was kind of, taking the lead the last time we had a ref conversation on this show when the Chiefs lost in Green Bay, and there was the PI debacle at the end and a bunch of other stuff. Late hit on Mahomes that got called that probably shouldn't have. I
was going to say, at some point, I don't think that's irony. I don't think that's irony. I think that's just like a bad ref crew.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And I guess, the silver lining is they won't be in the playoffs. But the game pretty much ensured that the Lions will be the 3 seed instead of the 2, which means that they would either go to Philly or go to Dallas in round 2 instead of having those teams come to Detroit. And if you don't think that makes a difference, then you're wrong. So there's real life implications to this stuff, and it just stinks. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm sorry, Detroit. I want things to be, on a perfectly level playing field and to not have excuses for teams. And I still don't think that is a legitimate excuse to not play your best ball in January, but it sucks. It really does.
We truly just cannot have this continue to happen. We need a better accountability measure for these teams. We need, or these teams of referees. We need just more accountability in refereeing. It's super frustrating that this continues to happen.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much the only head scratcher that comes from a week like this. I had honorable mentions. I had a lot of honorable mentions. There was the humorous variety of why does Washington have a 3-inch TV in their locker room? There was the, X's and O's head scratcher of why did the Giants not try to get closer than a 54-yard field goal with 40 seconds left when they had, a kicker they just signed off the street who's 100 years old? There's actually bad head scratchers of why are the Ravens honoring Ray Rice at halftime? There's a lot of things we could talk about from this week, but all of it is overshadowed by bad refereeing. So that's the only official head scratcher we have to talk about.
It's the only one that needs to be talked about because I don't know. This team is so feel good that you want them to succeed. And not only do you want them to succeed, but it's it's a big guy touchdown, man.
Exactly.
It's the coolest touchdown involved. And they just can't give us good things.
To win a game on the road that most people weren't giving them a chance to win. And it just gets ripped out of our hands on not only a technicality, just incompetence.
I had text our group. It's this team is so awesome. I love the Lions so much. They're so cool. And then just immediately God damn it.
God damn it. Yeah. Cheap seats.
Cheap seats already.
We're already there.
Jackson. Final time they're going to be cheap too.
Yeah. This is it. I mean, we don't do cheap seats in the playoffs, do we? No cheap seats there.
I think we could find a variant on the cheap seat, which I think would be interesting. But let's just get into this cheap seat. I think I have to give you the final one because you gave it
do.
to me last week.
It does indeed.
It is week 18. And, oh, wow. Jackson. Have you pulled this up?
Not yet. I
Okay.
will once you give it to me so I can remember them for reference.
Well, Jackson, we might have to do mid seats because we have our cheapest seats, the cheapest seats that we may have had all season. Like I'm saying cross the board, but you also kind of know what those cheap seats will be.
Hazard a guess that Jacksonville, Carolina is in there somewhere.
Jacksonville, Carolina played this week.
Jacksonville, Tennessee. Then that's who they're playing, right?
And Tampa Bay, Carolina.
Okay, yeah, well, perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted you to get both.
Arizona probably in there too.
Those Jackson are all under $20.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's too cheap. You're right. Mid seats this week. Close it out stronger.
And I will save you. There's one more under 30. It's Atlanta, New Orleans, and I'll save you from that. I will save you from any NFC South ball this week. Although that is a good rivalry. We'll put it in the 30 to. Oh God, there's a lot of disparity. We'll put it 30 to 60. It'll give us 4 games, and there was one much cheaper than the other. And if you told me that week 18 Chiefs Chargers was going to be $33,
wow,
I wouldn't have believed you.
Me neither, but I don't think you can take that one, right?
No, you can't.
That's terrible.
No, you cannot.
No. Gross.
If you told me at like any point up to like week 10, it'd be the 4th cheapest game on this, 5th cheapest game on this, wouldn't have believed you. Yet here we are. $51, second cheapest. A classic end of season matchup. Giants or Eagles at Giants. Just a classic.
Looking out the window.
A great one. You can see it out the window.
Looking out the window.
Cheaper than a brand new video game before whatever. You could go there and buy a beer. And hey, there's a lot of historic season-ending memories of Eagles Giants in the final week of the season, so it bears viewing just for hilarity's sake. And hey, there could be some fun stuff that happens too. $58. A game you very well might want to go to, and if you're on either side, and you might both be rooting for the same outcome, frankly. Jets at Patriots, $58.
Why does it have to be the Jets?
You know why, Jackson? Because the Jets haven't won a game against New England, I believe, since the Obama administration.
2015, confirmed. I remember that game. That's why I don't want it to be the Jets. I want them to lose, but I love that Jets losing streak. That's like the one thing I still like about Patriots' success is the fact that they still have this crazy Jets winning streak. That's hilarious.
But at this point, in a way, I want it to end with, like, if this is going to be Belichick, I want some cathartic end to it. I want a real, like, it's the same thing about, like, oh, you're glad you got a loss out ahead of time. Like you're glad you got your perfect season ended now, so you don't have to worry about it going into the playoffs. You don't want to carry the weight of a 8.5 year or 7.5 year win streak into a new era head coach. You want to leave that in the past.
I see that vision.
It's a hard one to let go on, Jax, but we're working on letting go in 24 as Patriots fans.
You are so right.
Last one, $60. Surprisingly better than I thought it would have been, despite everything. It's Browns Bengals.
Game means nothing. It does.
Yeah, but counterpoint, it's cool.
Is it going to be DTR? I feel like it should be DTR for the Browns. That's my guess.
Can they go any lower in seeding than 5?
No, they're trapped in the 5. There's no world where they're anything but the 5.
Oh, then bench the house.
Yeah.
This is. I wish this was good for my my wins pool, but it isn't because I've already hit my max on my wins pool. like they're both my wins teams, so I just win no matter what.
Yeah, but you also lose no matter what.
We're trying to find. Well, you can only go up, so I only win.
Yes, it's true. But when you are in your position in the wins pool, which is 2.5 points back of Nolan going into the final week, any game where you're guaranteed a loss is kind of a bad thing at this stage. You want max win potential.
I know that, but we're now just looking at. We should have come into the pod doing this, but we're now just looking at matchups where we're both either playing each other or where our Golden Goose team is playing another team. I believe that both our Golden Goose teams are playing ourselves.
They are. Which means you need the Golden Goose teams to win.
The thing is, Jacksonville needs to win. So I'm happy about that.
It's true.
The Commanders need pride.
The Cowboys need to win too, though, to be clear.
Yeah, hey, they needed to win Week 18 last year against the Manders.
No, it didn't. They were locked in the 5 seed last year.
And Washington's left hand was up.
All right.
Who are we? The Commanders.
I'm going to the Giants game. Sorry. I can't do this Pats thing. I don't want to go to New England and try to root for them to lose. That's just not something that I can have on my conscience. And what is, I would say better than 50% chance this is Belichick's last game. I don't want to root for that. I agree that it's a necessary cathartic ending to go out on a loss to the Jets, but I don't want to be there when it happens. So I'll just take the convenience route. New year, try new things. I'll finally go to MetLife Stadium. It'll be a nice first for me.
Let's get some crazy. Deshaun Jackson style punt return. Let's get some real mess going.
Very into that. That'll do it.
We
got a big old week ahead of us, Cale. 2024 starting on a high note. Next time we talk, we're talking playoff football.
Speak for yourself, Hideout. I feel like crap.
Yes. So I meant purely in a football sense. I acknowledge that your life may not be exactly how you want it right now in terms of, health and wellness, but we'll get there. Next time we talk, you'll be healthy.
Yes, I will. I am looking forward to it, and we will officially be able to talk some playoff ball, Jackson.
Nothing could be more exciting. So, Cale, you're going to rest up. I'm going to get my ducks in a row. We're going to come back and talk playoff ball next week, and it will be amazing. So look forward to that, folks. But for now, for Cale, I'm Jackson. We will see you next Tuesday.
See you.